Hello, everybody. This is Carla, and this time I'm going to review episode 3 of season 3 of Sleepy Hollow, which is titled Blood and Fear. I have to say that I quite liked this episode. I mean, it started off a bit slow, but it got better pretty quickly, so I don't mind that. It didn't feel uneven because it got better pretty quickly and then it stayed that way. So I'm go with this episode. It wasn't necessarily the best, but I liked it. There were some things that I just found hard to swallow this time around, because usually when this show messes with the U.S. history, I'm not from the U.S., so I only know the basics. So when they go into detail and change those details, usually the changes just kind of go over my head. But when it comes to stuff like Whitechapel and, the lore of Jack the Ripper, I know a little bit more about that. So that part, it was kind of difficult to suspend my disbelief there, because yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's finally happened. Sleepy Hollow has addressed Jack the Ripper, except it really wasn't Jack the Ripper. I mean, if you know anything about the Whitechapel murders, that's not the method that Jack the Ripper used at all. That was not his MO. It was, they were slashed, stabbed to death, and whatever, but they weren't exsanguinated. They were just, their organs were removed. So that was like either the Blade sort of switched MOs through the years, or something else happened, because that clearly was not my Jack the Ripper. And it does bug me that they used the name of Jack the Ripper just to kind of make it more interesting. But really, it could have been any series of ritualistic killings anywhere. It didn't have to be Jack the Ripper. It wasn't similar to Jack the Ripper's. So it's one of those things where I just kind of rolled my eyes and went, really, was it really necessary for Jack the Ripper to be brought up at all? It really wasn't. But I like the idea of just the killings taking place every few centuries. I like the idea of it being kind of a cycle, and I really like the way they found the solution to them. It's kind of, it was very interesting to me that the killings were sort of stopped by other means of death, by illness in this case. I liked when Ichabod kind of found out and he said, well, it was the last murder but not the last death. I thought that's the point where the episode really grabbed my attention again. And I liked that Ichabod ejected himself with malaria. I mean, come on. Thank goodness he's in the 21st century, because if he had tried that stunt before, he would have died. So I thought that was really interesting. I didn't like how the dagger gave the murder sort of I don't know, like armored skin or whatever. I didn't like that part, because first of all, you're not really aware. Like, his back was to Ichabod when Ichabod fired at him, and the armor still came up. Like, is it involuntary? Doesn't like the person have to be aware that he's being shot at and where he's being shot at? So I didn't like that part, but I liked that it led to Ichabod injecting himself to taint his own blood, so that the murderer would be affected and stop killing. Still, it's hard for me to suspend my disbelief with this thing, because, first of all, the Jack the Ripper thing, as I mentioned, and second of all, there's been one murder, and Abby goes to her boss, tells him it's ritualistic killings, and they're trying to find a pattern. Except there is no pattern. There's one murder, But her boss just, keep forgetting his name, Danny, I think. He just lets her run with it. But she has no proof. One guy died. That's all there was. So how are you even speculating that this is a serial killer? Is it just because of the ritualistic aspect of it? I mean, you're hardly an expert on behavioral science, Abby. So that part for me, it didn't really fly. But in the end, I really like the confrontation of it. I just didn't necessarily like the setup. First of all, because of, and I might go in a bit of a rant about this, I'm sorry ahead of time, but I don't like this idea that TV is doing right now and movies are doing right now, that people who are rejected have some sort of, I don't know, tendency to lash out against the people who reject them. I mean, I know anyone who feels any rejection at some point gets angry about it. That's certainly true. But just this idea that people who kind of go on these massive killing sprees do it because they were rejected, when in reality people who are rejected and people who feel depressed because of rejection or are just dealing with mental issues and a feeling of isolation and whatever, people who go through that are actually much more likely to hurt themselves. So it seems kind of a misdirection that the media keeps perpetuating, and I'm not sure I like that. First of all, on that part of things, that people who are going through who have mental problems or who are feeling pushed away from normal society or feeling isolated or whatever, have a tendency to hurt other people. And second of all, that when they do hurt other people, it's not their fault for some reason. I mean, yes, in this case, obviously the dagger was magical and it had some sort of control power over the dude. But, if someone goes out there and kills people because the people rejected him or her, I don't think it's okay to just say, oh, it's not the person's fault because he just felt rejected. That's, I mean, yes, it's a factor, but it's not an excuse. And this guy, he had a life, he had a good life. I mean, he didn't have the girl he liked, I guess, and that made him sad, but he had a job, he had a place to live in. He was clearly up to a certain degree of stability in his life. He had it. So unless he had some kind of mental illness, which the episode does not suggest, he should have been able, under normal circumstances, to make the decision not to hurt anyone. Even if he felt angry at people, that doesn't mean you have to go and hurt them, because depression and isolation and anxiety and whatever, they're not mind control devices. They are issues that the person has to deal with, in a lot of cases even physical issues, but this does not mean you're just out of control. So I mean, of course, in this case there was the effect of the magic dagger and whatever, and Pandora's weird mind manipulation thing, but it's something that I think entertainment media has to be very careful about, because you don't want to be apologetic about people who commit these atrocities. So I just feel very personally about this. I've never been in a situation where I've had to deal with someone who's honestly so out of control that they might hurt people, but I feel that these are cases that have to be taken very delicately and individually, and it's not, I think the media might be perpetuating an image of these mass killers that might not be the right one, or that might inspire people to think it's the same one always, and that is really wrong. So I mean, obviously I don't blame Sleepy Hollow for this. I think the episode did its best to show that no, it was mind control in this case, but still, like, people have to have a certain level of reasoning for this kind of episodes, because someone like a younger person who might not know any better, if they have no guidance, they might think, oh, the show is trying to tell me that this is what really happens, or I mean, sense the magic, of course, that this actually happened, and then it might get worse. Let's just not give the wrong idea to people. So I think that the episode didn't necessarily handle this the best way, but because of the magic element, I can't really fault them. But I wish they had gone with a different type of murderer, because this is a very delicate thing that is actually happening in the world right now. So it needs to be explained and exposed responsibly. So it's just one of those things that I don't really didn't really enjoy about the episode, but just the way they dealt with the magic thing was interesting. I thought Pandora's words at the end to Abby were interesting, because she was also touching up on the isolation thing, and I wonder if that's part of her motive somehow. I remember in the last episode I was kind of bugged by the fact that we still don't know anything about her. I still am, but if they keep giving us like little hints like today, I don't mind that too much. I liked the fact that Ichabod is now actually wanting to become a US citizen, and he thinks it's going to be so fast, and it probably won't, but I like that he's finally decided to take that step, because he feels stronger about the USA than many people from the USA actually do. Like, I know a few of them, and Ichabod is just so idealistic about what the USA represents to him, that I think it's really great of him to finally be taking that step. I liked the woman, Miss Garth, I think her name is. I don't remember at this moment, but I like her. She seems nice. She seems to like Ichabod, which is kind of cute, really. I wonder if he knows that she likes him. That would be, because I don't think he's the type to recognize that, honestly. And I do wonder what happened to, was that the same lab woman working with Abby in the first episode of the season that kind of just stared at Ichabod with googly eyes? What happened to her? Was that the same lady that appeared in this episode? I'm not sure. I don't remember, but I think it's funny that Ichabod has so many women vying for his affection now. It's interesting. As far as Jenny and Joe's oh wow, I hadn't noticed that. Jenny and Joe, that sounds nice. Jenny and Joe's subplot, I liked it too. I found it very interesting, because honestly, I had never really thought that Corbin might have involved a lot of people into this, like, supernatural devices smuggling ring thing, whatever. But I think it's an interesting notion. I don't know at this point if this lady they found is actually going to be trained by Corbin, or if she just learned that from somewhere else. Who she's working for, is she a good or a bad person? Like, what does she want the shard for? I think it was an interesting setup, although at the same time I think they kind of left the Joe thing on the side a bit. Like, he was just sitting there. Really? Was it? Look, couldn't you, Jenny, are you supposed to be teaching him, like, you don't just leave him sitting there. I understand it was his first day, but still, I mean, they could have done a bit more with him. but I'm interested. I'm intrigued, and I want to see where this is going. And if that one lady, I always welcome more females into TV shows. So she might be a kick-ass girl. So I'm looking forward to seeing where she comes from. And another thing I really liked about this episode was the fact that we had some Ichabod backstory. We're so focused on the Revolutionary War aspect of Ichabod that we've just never really seen anything of his life previous to this. So I like that. Young Ichabod was cute. So I like that too. I mean, I've talked about the whole Jack the Ripper thing. I didn't really care about that part, but I like the idea that seeing this murderer when he was a teenager kind of gives him something more in common with Abby, because we all know that Abby's story started when she and Jenny saw Moloch in the forest. So I find that I love parallels, and I find that parallel really strong, really interesting, and I just like that their bond is kind of being reinforced, because I think it took a beating last season with the whole Katrina thing and the whole Henry thing, so it's nice to see them go back to what made them them. That was really cool. No Betsy Rose in this episode, so I kind of missed that, but I understand. I like how they're moving with the Dan thing. They're going slow, just revealing little by little. I guess now we know that something really did happen between him and Abby. I would like to see more of that, because at this point, again, it seems too much like he's her friend and not her boss, and I want to see some drama come about in relation to that. So that's what I'm hopeful. But overall, I think it was a pretty good episode. Not necessarily the greatest, and there were some issues that bothered me a bit, as I've mentioned already. But it was a pretty good episode. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do in the next few. Definitely better than the previous one, so I quite enjoyed it, and I'm feeling good about Sleepy Hollow at the moment, so fingers crossed for some other good stuff in the future. And yeah, that's pretty much it for me for this review. You guys can see and listen to a few more reviews from Sleepy Hollow over at our webpage, thegeekypub.com. You can also find reviews for other media like TV shows, books, games, anything, movies. We have a bunch of stuff, so be sure to check it out, and I will see you guys in my next review.